I fight for the future. Many among us do. We fight for our country and for all of humanity and for all of the other species and for Gaia herself. We live in the real world and we fight for the future. This is the fourth update, fourth of five that I said I would deliver before the midterm elections in the first week in November. The first one, the longest of these four, was provided a lot of context, both the context of the last few years, context of the last few decades, and context of the century since the founding of the republic, and all those layers of context are important to understand how we arrived at where we are, the circumstances in which we found ourselves, and such the circumstances within which we are attempting to move forward to a better world. So I commend them all to you. The second one highlighted some positive developments which had increased the opportunity and the probability of Biden and Harris and the Democratic Party making progress and in the upcoming election. And then the third one discussed some negative developments which threatened that forward momentum, and also some further positive developments, and the interplay between the tension between the two, the struggle between the two. And this fourth update will be of a similar nature to the second and the third, follow kind of the same format. All of the images that I use in these presentations, I use as fair use. I'm using them for educational purposes, not for commercial purposes. They're all sourced to who, whose images they are, where they're sourced to their origins, publication of origins. But the images are, in the first one, were all of Ukrainian women, Ukrainian soldiers, Ukrainian civilians, Ukrainian officials, women engaged in the struggle of national survival against Putin's genocidal war against the Ukraine. And then in the second and third updates, I also wove in images of women, cultural icons, and government officials, and activists, and journalists in the United States, and in now adding people not only from the Ukraine and Belarus, and Europe and the United States, but also from Africa, of course, and Iran. And why women? Because they're all images of women, because the ascendancy of women, the ascendancy of the feminine, all of the people depicted here are one way or another agents of the ascendance of the feminine. And victory in this war, not only the war in the Ukraine and the struggle in Iran, but in the struggle for the United States in this upcoming midterm election and the election beyond it, the victory in this war is vital for the future of the West and democracy and the leadership of women is vital for the future of all life on this planet. So the images, if you wanted to ignore my words and ignore the text, the context on the screens, you could just follow the images and the captions accompanying the images, and they would tell a parallel story that would explore in different ways, different dimensions, the same subject matter and deliver the same message in a different language in a way. Or you could just take it all together as it's meant to be. I say this is the first of three deadlines. The U.S. midterm elections in 2022 is the first of three doom-defining or doom-defying deadlines, depending upon how they turn out for our country and for the human race. The first one is this midterm election. The second one is the U.S. presidential election in 2024, and the third one is 10 years from when I published Secret Engine of the World, which is where I articulated these three deadlines. I published that in 2021, so I made 2023 the third deadline, because I basically, what I'm saying in that way is we have 10 years on the climate crisis. 10 years, when I started talking about the climate crisis and others, many others, scientists and environmental leaders and a few elected officials and people in the intelligence world, we were articulating the threat of climate change. I remember saying we had 30 years. I remember saying we had 20 years. I'm telling you, we have 10 years. I mean, it's already underway. It's not like we're not talking about avoiding the catastrophe at this point. We're talking about mitigating its worst impacts and salvaging a survivable future and mitigating what is already underway at this point. And pretty much we have a 10-year window to get something significant done. So those are the three deadlines. 2022, November 2022 is the first of those three deadlines. The facts on the ground, the overarching crises that kind of shape our reality at the moment, if your eyes are open. Our planetary emergencies, the climate collapse, and the pandemic, which, the pandemic is probably only the first real pandemic that we've had to deal with in our lifetimes. It won't be the last, I'm sorry to say. And then the big lie, January 6th, the attack on January 6th and beyond. The big lie, January 6th and beyond. The lie that somehow, Trump won and the election was stolen from him and all this nonsense. And then, which is just their excuse to seize power and lock us into permanent minority rule in this republic. And then the war in the Ukraine, which is vital, vital not only to the people of the Ukraine, but to the West and to the world, that Ukraine survives and their territorial integrity survives, and their culture survives, and their language survives. It is vital that Ukraine wins this war, and it is vital that we help them. And guns and abortion, because that's what they've done here in America. They've over decades, they have ruthlessly seen to it that we are flooded with assault weapons and insane overkill, weapons of war, um, and somehow distorted the Second Amendment to make it all as if it was some constitutional right to have a weapon of war in your bedroom closet, and all the madness that has flowed from that, and simultaneously um, removing all restrictions from guns, removing all control from guns, all sane control and restriction on guns being removed, and at the same time imposing uh, barbaric, medieval controls on a woman's reproductive rights. That's what they have done. These were the two major weapons of what they've done to the body politic of the United States. Um, the cultivators of orc culture. So, first, some negative things that have arisen since my last update. In my last update, I talked about one of the negative developments I addressed in the third update. Yeah, was billionaire John Malone getting control of CNN and what's already happened there. And then also a German industrialist, right-wing German industrialist, gaining control of Politico.com, which helps shape um, the the group mind of the political pundits in this country. And so, I mean, CNN and Politico were not were already problematic, but now they're being dragged to the right in ways that will impact the mind world around us. But at a critical time, at this time as we head up to this election. But now, Elon Musk, another billionaire, he was going to buy Twitter, then it fell apart, and then we breathed a sigh of relief, and now it seems back on again, and it's very serious. It's very serious because we saw in 2016 what social media can do, and it works both ways, and Twitter, to lose Twitter to Elon Musk would be a very, very, very disturbing turn of events. And just for example, I'll just read you this tweet from Juju to Warren, which is a great Twitter feed. And by the way, everything that I'm going to read you, I'll be reading you some things. I won't source them. They're sourced in the text. They're sourced in the text at wordsofpower.earth, and they're sourced in the slides themselves. So Juju Warren says, Elon Musk is a national security threat. Russia-friendly Republican billionaire who has promised to flood Twitter with misinformation, for example, also known as, quote, free speech, unquote, and bring back Trump, is threatening, because remember, Trump was banned from Twitter. Well, he wants to bring Trump back. He says Trump should be back online, should be back on Twitter. He shouldn't have been banned from Twitter. He's threatening to buy Twitter again. He must be stopped. Most important, we're 5 weeks away from a crucial midterm election, and we know the right wants to distract us with shiny objects, put forth any messaging that might keep us from voting. So it's important to see any new development announcement like this in that context. Yes to all of that, but just contemplate what the impact would be if Trump returned to Twitter 2 weeks before the midterm election. The chaos that would ensue, and it's all so so nakedly, unabashedly, cravenly interconnected. Now, then Elon Musk out of nowhere, who the hell are you? But Elon Musk now he has a peace plan for the Ukraine, which is basically the peace. Which his peace plan for the Ukraine is, oh well, you give up you give up these provinces, and yada yada yada. It's basically this is how the Ukraine has to sue for peace with Russia. Well, this is how it'll be in the end. It's basically dialed up by Putin. This peace plan. And in fact, he spoke to Putin before he posted his peace plan on Twitter, by the way, and he denies he spoke to Putin. It just probably means they texted, they didn't speak. But I believe he's, my view of free speech is, that's a lie. He did clear with Putin one way or another. Oligarch to oligarch. The Ukraine ambassador to Germany responded, quote, "fuck off," is my very diplomatic reply. So it's all interconnected in very important ways. And in the accompanying text at wordsofpower.org, you'll see I drilled down a little bit into all of this, all of the Musk Twitter, the implications and the side angles to all of this. But it's something to keep an eye on. It's something of concern. Another negative development that potentially threatens our forward motion going into the midterm elections is that the Saudis and OPEC have now pretty much sided with Putin, which means they've sided with Putin, Trump, and the MAGA Republicans, and they're going to drive up the price of oil by slashing production before the election, and of course also after the U.S. passed a climate bill, a serious substantive climate bill. So I'll read you this tweet from Lindy Lee, who's a great source on Twitter, great member of the Twitterati. Make no mistake, this is a deliberate attempt by the Trump, Saudi, Kremlin axis of horror to screw Biden right before the midterms, to send energy prices soaring, to threaten Western coalition backing Ukraine, to make Americans miserable so they'll punish the governing party. Kushner took $2 billion from the people who just jacked up gas prices for Americans. Munchin took $1 billion from the people who funded the 9/11 attack. Trump took blood money from the people who used golf to sports wash their murder of Khashoggi. Trump works for MBS, not the USA. I ascribe to all of that. On the bright side, sedition and espionage, second installment, or third installment, perhaps. All along, I've been tracking what Garland and the Justice Department are doing in terms of consequences for Trump's minions and those associated with Trump and part of the broader authoritarian rise and take over the Republican Party and attempt to take over the government of the United States itself. That it's very important that there are consequences, that an example is made of Trump in terms of criminal prosecution. It is vital for the mental health of the country, and not just for the mental health of the country, for the health of the body politic, for the health of our institutions. It's vital. So there's been a lot of movement over this last month, both in terms of the stolen classified documents case and in terms of the conspiracy around January 6th and overthrowing disrupting the transfer of power and overthrowing the duly elected government. And I'll just read you this beautiful quote from Lawrence Tribe just a couple nights ago. And there were a lot of Garland will never do it. Trump will never be prosecuted, blah, blah, blah. And I said from the beginning, I said in the first update, oh no, he will. And then with each update since July, it has become closer and closer and closer, and we will see it after this midterm, no matter what happens. And indictments. But I'll just read you this quote from Lawrence Tribe. The real question before Merrick Garland, not whether to indict, but when, where, and for which crimes. And when it comes to trying the case in Washington, there one could include insurrection, sedition, seditious conspiracy, in addition to espionage, theft of government documents, and obstruction of justice. There will be an indictment that is absolutely over the top, leaving no stone unturned is important, despite the angst it will generate and the threatened violence and all the rest. That will be the beginning, I predict, of national healing when we will see that no one really is above the law, and the fact that even the President of the United States, a former president, is accountable. That will make a big difference. It will make a big difference. And even though a lot of people will get away with a lot of things, this is an extraordinary moment. This is an extraordinary criminal rampage, psychotic, pathological rampage, and it is vital that it be brought to ground. And it's coming. It's coming. And so Biden also, through the power of the executive branch, is wielding the power of the executive branch to the extent that he can, with great efficacy. And I'll read you this quote from Amanda Littman. Biden has delivered big for young people with historic action on climate change, student debt relief, massive steps forward on marijuana policy. Our collective next step is to talk about all that endlessly in every space and place possible until and after the polls close. So he pardoned all prior federal offenses of simple possession of marijuana, urged state governors to do the same, and asked the Health and Human Services and Department of Justice to review how marijuana is scheduled under federal law. They're forgiving up to $10,000 in outstanding federal student loan debt. And for those who fall into some certain income brackets, up to $20,000. I want all student debt forgiven at this time at this moment in our history, at this time in our history. But this is a big step forward. Just like the climate change legislation was a big step forward. There's plenty more to do on our horrific drug policies and mass incarceration policies in the United States. But the pardoning of all those found guilty of federal offenses for the possession of marijuana, that's a big, bold step forward. And this was done with 50-50 Senate. This was done with, so not real control of the Senate. This was done with only a handful of votes as a majority in the House of Representatives. So, and a Supreme Court controlled by right-wing fanatics. So Biden's really showing you what can happen if in this midterm we can retain real control. We can attain real control of Congress. And of course, at a minimum, we have to hold on to what we have. So November is coming. And the abomination that was the Alito ruling on Roe v. Wade has predictably, just like Me Too fueled what happened in 2018 when we took back the House of Representatives. Um, Black Lives Matter fueled what happened in 2020 when we took back the White House and got to a tie in the Senate. And this year, bans off our bodies. Rovember is going to be what we need to punch through on this midterm election and get us some real traction in terms of moving forward. And I drill down into that some in the accompanying text, and you can read some of the numbers. Very encouraging numbers. Jennifer Rubin, great conservative columnist in the Washington Post. If you deny women's autonomy as adult decision makers and subject them to increased risk of trauma, grave health complications, and death, they get mad. Get very mad. And that's happening, and that's fueling what we're seeing all across the country. I go into that some in back in the third update as well. So in each one of these updates, I've listed a survey of critical races, and if you go into the text version at wordsofpower.earth, you'll see that under each one of these contests listed, I've given some background, some poll numbers, some scandal, some bold statement of purpose and goodness, some insights, little glimpses and insights into these races. But everything that I've listed in these two slides on survey of critical races, I've just listed the governor's races and the Senate races. But it's all, you have to vote more this year, more than ever. You have to vote all the way up and down the ballot. You've got to make sure you know who you're voting for city council president, for school board, for the election officials. It's all vital now because they are messing around with these jobs. They're chasing people out of these jobs and putting wackos into these jobs. And all of these elections are important, but there's no election more important than the Secretary of State elections in these states, because it's the Secretary of State really that has the most direct hands-on impact on most of these elections. So, I focused on the Senate and governor because those are the statewide races. And they have federal implications because it's control of the Senate is at hand. But I just want to read you something again from our friends at Duty to Warn. Trump has normalized coups. The GOP boasts that if their secretaries of state are elected, they'll make sure Republicans win. They're running for election on the platform that they will corrupt elections and overthrow democracy. Quote, this is a quote from the Republican candidate for Secretary of State of Nevada. When my coalition of Secretary of State candidates gets elected, we're going to fix the whole country, and President Trump is going to be president again. You can go through Michigan here, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Ohio, Georgia, Arizona, Texas, Florida. You'll see, again, reasons to vote for the Democrat, reasons to not vote for the MAGA GQP candidate. You'll find poll numbers as to where those races really are and other important developments in each of these races with links to the full story of each of them. There are two Senate seats that we picked up to tie the Senate in 2020, Warnock in Georgia and Kelly in Arizona. Ossoff isn't on the ballot this time, but Warnock in Georgia is, and um, Kelly in Arizona are. They're good men. They're running against insane people, insane men. I don't use that word lightly. I mean, you'll read about them, but those races shouldn't be as close as they are. They really shouldn't be as close as they are, but they are because it's not about who. It's just about gaining power now. They don't care. They don't care. They just want to get power and hold it. So those two races are important. And there's real opportunity to flip a Senate seat in Ohio. There's real opportunity to flip a Senate seat in Pennsylvania and in Wisconsin and other places where the Rovember wave is reaching and overtaking some. There are a lot of Republicans and independents who would ordinarily just vote Republican, who I think are just gonna slip into the woodwork. You're gonna sit this one out. That's what we're hoping. And many, and you'll read their stories. Many, the most bipartisan thing in the country. There's great bipartisanship in the country right now. It's in the resistance. It's in the Never Trump resistance and the resistance to MAGA, the resistance to the GQP. There's tremendous bipartisan consensus on the front lines at the barricades. I call it a united front for sanity and decency. It coalesced in 2020. It's holding together. It's fragile. Will it splinter apart? Absolutely. But we need to hold it together through this election and 2024. So I remain grimly confident. I said this before. I used to say, "Oh, I'm wildly optimistic," but there's been so much suffering and there's so much danger that I feel like, even though the underlying fundamentals are the same, and I still see that my analysis is still the same and my intuition is still the same about what is happening, my sense of what is happening, my feel for what is happening, my fingers on the pulse of it all are telling me is still the same. I just, wildly optimistic just doesn't seem appropriate, isn't appropriate. So I just say, well, this year I'm grimly confident. Grimly confident. And I will give one more update before the midterm election, first week in November. I'll probably give the last update right around Samhain, right around that high holy day, that high holy night. Go to wordsofpower.earth. You'll find text, copy of everything, the slide, and also the slides, all the images, all the powerful images which tell a story of their own, story of great sheroes of the evolution across the planet. And you'll also find links to the other updates, and you'll find all the videos of each update, and you'll see links and background and context and things you can drill down into about each of the races and other aspects of all of this. Yeah. soha. Om tar te tar tui soha. Om tar te tar tui soha.